Morning, Jay.
How you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Uh, well, it's pretty good relative.
What can you say? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, about as
Oh,
good as can be expected. 3 hurricanes inside of 2 years, you know.
yeah. Could have been a lot worse for
Right.
sure.
I had a whole group out. One of my neighbors, he was turning 90 years old. So I had a birthday party at Key Lime Bistro Sunday night. And they said, "Oh, this place looks great." And I said, "Okay, now look behind the French doors." And then they saw Key Lime Bistro down to that. And they went like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, geez.
Party out.
We're getting there.
Yeah. Well, I was going to start off the meeting just to see, uh, have everybody just talk a minute about, if they had any, hurricane issues and so forth. So, we'll
Okay.
hold off on further discussion of our woes for a couple of minutes. I guess it is 9 o'clock. I don't see a lot of people checked in yet. Maybe we'll give them a couple of more minutes. I don't think I'm aware of anybody missing the meeting.
Yeah, good. Mm-mm.
Everybody's here, Jay.
I'm sorry.
I think everybody's here.
Oh, they are, but
I see Tony, I see Ann, I see Sandy, I see John, I see Linda, I see you,
oh,
I see Marguerite.
okay. I'm not seeing that on my screen. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Okay, I guess let's get started since David says everyone's here. Welcome everybody to the November meeting of the Captiva Community Panel. Uh, Let me start off with the roll call. I'm Jay Brown, David Mintz.
I'm here.
Okay, Linda Laird.
Here.
Sandy Stillwell. Well, I saw Sandy earlier. John Jensen.
Yes. Good morning, Jay.
Tony Lappy.
Here.
Hi, Tony.
Hello. Hello.
Bruce McDonald.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Ken Gill. I guess Ken is not here. I think he's leaving the panel at the end of this term. I think he's maybe getting a head start on that. Ann Brady.
Morning, Jay.
How are you doing?
Good.
And Margaret Maville.
Yes,
Margaret,
good morning, Jay.
how are you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Okay, first order of business
Jay,
is,
and
I'm sorry?
Ken Suarez is also here.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Ken. I skipped right over your name. Ken, sorry, you're here?
I'm here. Too many
Okay.
Kens around.
Yeah, Ken, my apologies. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay, let's just start off with approval of last minute's meetings. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
I can second.
Okay, any discussion of the minutes? Okay, all in favor of
Aye.
approval? Aye.
I
Ayes. Thank you. Okay, let's just start off and kind of go around the table a little bit and discuss the hurricane. I think what I'm mostly interested in is if we can find out, any needs that aren't being addressed, right now, or major holes in how our community is responding to the hurricane. I'll start off. My house was, I'm at the high point on Captiva, 8 feet above sea level, and I still managed to get about 2 feet of water in the lower level of my house, which is is just his garage, exercise room, storage, and so forth. And so it's exactly the same thing I had 2 years ago, or I'm sorry, with Ian, and I'm just repeating everything I did before. So the thing that's different to me this time is the huge volumes of sand that's around everywhere. And if we're going to be able to get rid of all that sand on the roadside, I think maybe Linda might be able, or somebody might be able to talk to that as we go on into the meeting. But I don't think I have any major issues that that are different, or I don't think that I'm not going to be able to address. Somebody want to take it next? Anybody else want to speak on it?
Yeah.
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 Who's
You know,
talking?
Jay, one of the issues that we're finding inside the resort is with trash collection, and it was determined, I guess, by FEMA that FEMA was not going to go inside the resort because it's a commercial establishment. And I've been trying to get a hold of somebody at the county to try to get that figured out because, South Seas is not a commercial establishment. We have a number of residential properties inside the
Absolutely.
resort, plus the associations, and we're being completely ignored, and the garbage is starting to pile up, and I don't understand why we're being overlooked there. I'm sure if we had some kind of emergency, God forbid, and on some of the roads, it's almost nearly impossible to drive down. So I don't know if maybe the chief could help us with that, or Jay, maybe you could help us, but it's becoming a problem.
Okay, is the resort management trying to do anything about it, or
I don't know.
okay?
My understanding on that is that the county's taking the position that FEMA doesn't reimburse for commercial properties. And my understanding also is that the resort ownership of the new owners have also reached out to the county unsuccessfully in order to resolve that problem. So I think we can make a call and see exactly what the issue is. We have other commercial properties that on the island that have debris in front of it, and it's getting picked up, I'm sure. So
David, I had a comment. I don't know how many people went to the picnic last night. And I heard a person talk who's a private owner in South Seas and complained and said, I want my stuff picked up. I'm a private owner. And she was, and again, I'm not naming any names if this is fact or rumor, but she said because South Seas would not let the people, FEMA, come in to pick up their stuff unless they agreed to pick up their stuff. That's just rumor. I just want to go on the record. It's something I listened to. I don't know if there's any fact behind it at all.
yeah, I heard that rumor too, and I just don't know if it's true also.
That's why I said rumor.
But also that gate is not just, owned by the new owners of the 120 acres on South Seas. That gate is, I don't even think it's on their property, and B, obviously other people have to get, and vendors have to get to other associations that have very little to do with timbers. Right.
No, I mean the waste management comes through. The gate's on their property, David, but there is they've never really established any kind of operating agreement. That's where that situation came in. But besides that, I would I'd be shocked if they were proceeding that way and the county is upholding to that, because again, waste management comes through all the time, and they're never stopped. So I don't know. I mean, if that is the case, if that's true that South Seas has determined not to let the FEMA trucks through, then obviously that is a humongous problem. But it just goes to show you that the county knows very little about about the resort if they're not even attempting.
Yeah, my understanding is that the county is laying out the money to pick up the debris on Captiva with the assumption and hope that they get reimbursed by FEMA. And FEMA is probably telling the county they don't reimburse for pickups on commercial properties. And that's probably where the problem lies. And we'll make a phone call and see if we
Yeah, I
can.
thought, David, why would they say that all of South Seas is a commercial property when, 75% of the, I don't know what the exact number is, but the vast majority of South Seas is owned by homeowners and condo owners, just like everyone else. I
I don't, there's always been that confusion as to that. It's sort of a mixed bag over there. And so that's why I say a phone call might be useful at this point.
Okay, so David, you're going to take that on and see
I'll
if
make
you.
a call and ask and see what, because I was gonna call the county anyway, because there is still debris that's not being picked up on some of the streets on Captiva. And I just want to get a timetable for that, so I can inquire as to the issue that Ken has raised also.
Hey, David, it's Jeff.
Pardon me?
It's Jeff, the fire chief.
Hi, Jeff, Fire Chief.
Hey, yeah, if you don't get anywhere with your phone calls, let me know. I can make, other ones as well. I don't know what that will or won't do. I can tell you for reference, in Fort Myers, none of the debris in my neighborhood's been picked up either. So I guess don't feel singled out that Captiva is not the one getting it done, but
Well, that makes us all feel a lot better.
yeah, right. In South Seas specifically, though, because I don't remember, did FEMA and the county do that after Ian, or was that the resort who organized everything in there? FEMA did, if I remember right.
No, FEMA did pick up after Ian. As a matter of fact, they picked up extra because they picked up the demolished buildings that South Seas tore down.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that's
they
what I
took
thought. I
full
just wanted
advantage of
to.
it. So yeah, they absolutely came in after Ian and picked up debris. But
Okay.
it'd make your job a hell of a lot harder if that stuff stays there, and
No,
especially with this sand next to it as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that as a whole, and I've actually had those conversations with FEMA specifically. I know Jay's aware of this. I was trying to get a representative for FEMA to actually join us on this call to kind of encompass, residential personal needs as well as, some of those questions on debris and whatnot. But with the short notice of their schedules and everything else, we just couldn't make it work for today's meeting. They got some people out in the field and this and that. So I'm going to reach out to them and further those conversations. Maybe if it's still useful, we can get them at next month's meeting. Jay and I can talk about that between now and then and see what we can figure out.
Well, I think the other thing, Jeff, I think we could probably, we don't necessarily have to, wait. We could have a special meeting of the panel if you felt that, there would be enough merit to have to pull together a panel meeting just for that subject, and we would broadcast that to the public that follows us, and
all right, yeah, I'll continue to work with Joanna. I had thought we were going to be set up for this meeting, and then
yeah, oh yeah, right, I did too, and then she she caved in, yesterday around noon.
Saturday when I was working with her, I thought we were all set, and then kind of went dark there for a little bit till yesterday and said we weren't going to make it. So I'll continue those conversations with them to see what we can work out. But I do agree. Obviously, debris is always an issue after storms, and I know the county's position on some of it because I've heard those conversations as far as not being reimbursed because of the value and the rest of the county and everything else impact level compared to. So either way, David, let me know where you get before I make another county related phone call. I don't want to.
Excuse me, I got a text from a private homeowner in South Seas, and per the county, they will be picking up private home debris today.
Whoa.
Well,
Huh.
Okay.
that was helpful. You
Well-
know, let me just,
Yeah, I guess.
All we have to do is talk about it and look at,
We learn more.
yeah, Jay, I want to say a couple of things, with that, just raise issues that have not been answered, but
Right.
you have to address.
Please,
mean-
go ahead.
Because of Helene and Milton, we saw, or a combination of them, we saw Blind Pass Bridge vulnerable and had to be repaired as a result of the two hurricanes. Captiva Drive, again, we lost the lane and it was eroded. So we had we had that Captiva Drive basically washed out. We know Plantation Road was impassable on South Seas, and we know that Andy Rossi, Whiteman and Binder, the Gold Coast had tremendous erosion. The Twin Water stretch was damaged. Santiva was obviously damaged. So I think there's a lot of issues, and not to discuss today, but I think for future resiliency discussions, we need to sort of assess what Helene and Milton has taught us and where our vulnerabilities are so that we can think about them going forward. So that's number one. Number two, I just want to thank Doug Busby and the county. I mean, they were out here immediately with repairing the Blind Pass Bridge and Captiva Drive on the Jensen's Curve.
Yeah,
And-
absolutely. Right.
And, you know, we're unincorporated Lee County, but they were there and they were working day and night to do that. And I just think we have to, you know, we have some disagreements with the county over time, but we also have to recognize that they really did their job when it came to Blind Pass Bridge and Captiva Drive. And then obviously we lost the Mucky Duck and we lost two condos that burnt down on Ventura Captiva. And as always, we have to thank the fire chief and the fire department for the work they did. I mean, they were there again, clearing roads, and they had to navigate impossible situations to put out those fires, et cetera. And once again, they were the first line of defense for Captiva. And Jeff, I know you're there, you know, you don't have to say thank you, you're welcome or anything, but you deserve and your team deserves a lot of thanks. And I also want to just say something about Sergeant Zeltman, who's sort of new to the island. He was in a position to sort of balance all the needs and the issues that arose after the hurricane. We had the fire department that had to have the roads to themselves so they could fight fires as they arose. He had to make sure that the county had the ability to repair the roads and the bridge at the same time with heavy equipment. And then he had homeowners who wanted to get back to their homes to prevent them from getting mold ridden so that they could salvage those homes. So you had three different needs all at the same time. And Sergeant Zeltman was out there in person, standing out there, making sure trying to balance all those different needs. And this was quite a orientation to Captiva, is to be involved with these hurricanes. But I think that Sergeant Zeltman did a fantastic job, and he was there almost 24 hours a day. And I think he and his team deserve a lot of credit. And so I just want to make those points. But I think between Jeff and Sergeant Zeltman and all the issues that we confronted after the hurricane, we need to have once we get past the hurricane season, which isn't over until after Thanksgiving, we need to have a real sit down and discuss the vulnerabilities that we face and how we can address them in the future. And one other thing, I just want to say about CEPD. I know there's been a lot of controversy around CEPD and whether beach renourishment was done or not, and we can deal with that at some other time. But after the hurricane, CEPD did, as best they could in a tough situation, work county and with some private companies to remove a lot of the sand.
Right. Yeah.
And to have it cleaned and put it back on the beach as a base for future renourishment. And that was something that we haven't seen before. And I think to the extent that CEP did that, I think they deserve sort of a thank you also, because they did do that. There's still a lot of sand that has to be removed, a lot of discussion about that. But right at the beginning, they did remove a lot of that sand and get it back on the beach.
Right. Well, David, I really appreciate those, comments, and I think they're all
Mm.
you know, spot on. And, you know, our fire department and our police department do a fabulous job, you know, for us. And I think sometimes, maybe at least it's true of me, I kind of take for granted, you know, how well they do.
Mhm.
And, you know, everything they do for us and the terrific job that they did, you know, in the aftermath of this hurricane. So all that is well said, David. Thanks for doing
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
I would like to just recognize too that it was not just me, but Deputy Lusk, Chris Lusk, and Christine Zumbrum. They were out here 24/7 as well. So
Mhm.
it was a team effort
Yeah,
Mm.
from the sheriff.
outstanding.
Thank you.
Okay, other comments about the hurricane, unaddressed needs,
You
so
know,
forth. Anybody else?
I have a
Jay?
comment, and so does John.
Jay,
Yeah, John, go ahead, and then what, was it Margaret that wanted to talk, or
Sandy,
Sandy? Okay.
well, thank you, Sam. Dave, when you talk to the county, are you gonna talk to them about sand removal also?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
There's still a couple, at the end of Andy Rossi Lane and at the Civic Association parking lot, there are two big piles of.
okay,
Yeah, okay.
At least those two that I know of.
okay.
And, you know, they have removed sand before, and we're gonna ask if they can remove them again. My understanding, and Linda, you can correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that the machinery that cleaned the sand is no longer available. So that sand can't be brought to Hagerup and then have it cleaned and put back on the beach. My understanding that that process is complete. Am I correct about that? Do you know?
It was supposed to be gone on Friday. It's not true at this point, though. It's still there. If you can get it to the beach, we can process it. If you can get it to the parking lot.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether the county would do that. I think, I just don't know. I think the county would be more likely, I'm guessing, more likely just to take it away if they even willing to do that.
Mhm.
And I don't know how long the cleaner or the strainer or whatever you call it is gonna be there.
Mhm.
And you know, whether you have then the ability.
Do you want us to call the county and see if they'll take it over so we can clean it and reuse it?
Well, if in fact you're still in a position to clean sand, and if you still want to reuse it, then I'll wait to hear from you before.
Well, the economics of it are that if the county takes it away, Captiva, it's free for Captiva, okay? And that's why we haven't previously done it in the past. When we process it, so far we spent probably $200,000 or $300,000 processing the sand and putting it back on the beach. On the other hand, we saw the sand lapping up. Excuse me, with some of the storms, we saw the water hitting our little pyramids of sand, right? And with the nor'easters coming in, or wherever they're coming in, the storms that come in the winter, I think it's good that we have that sand there. There are some, anyway, so where am I going with this? If we can get the owners to take the sand to the Hager parking lot, we will process it and put it on the beach. We'll pick the places that are the most open and put them there.
Well, I'm not talking the owners. I'm talking about multiple owners or we have a big pile at the end of Andy Rossi. We have a big pile in the Civic Association parking lot. Those are the ones I'm talking about. I was going to ask
Okay,
you to remove them.
let's talk. Well, can you and I work on this offline and see if we can do something to keep the sand on Captiva?
Mhm.
I'm happy to do that. You just
Okay,
what the options are.
okay.
Mhm.
I got a question, according to
Yeah.
the board, 2 times, all the sand that's down there at Vine Pass, any chance of the county using that on the causeway?
That the sand that is at Blind Pass, the sand that is in the Taylor parking lot, did I get the right name?
Turner Beach.
What?
Turner
Turner Beach, sorry, Turner Beach. The Department of Transportation is going to take that sand and rebuild more at Jensen's Curve. And they're going to go through there. They're also going to reinforce the riprap with smaller rocks and stones to sort of make it a more solid barrier. Once they have done, and you can see even right now where they have built a ramp in the Tween Waters stretch where they can get there. So what's supposed to happen is they're going to take the sand from there and use it on the Jensen's Curve and reinforce along there. If there is extra, the plan is to take it down to wherever it's needed the most. We expect it to go down to South Seas private owners.
Okay, thanks, Linda. The other last item, and I'm done. I was coming up to work the other day and people were biking, and instead of driving with the traffic, they were going against it because there seemed to be more room. And I kind of pointed over. Obviously, the guy was a good bicyclist. However, he didn't think that he should be on the side of the road because it's so inundated with sand. My point to him was he should be riding with the traffic regardless, because he has the right of way as long as he's with the traffic. But I'm going to instruct all my people at the marina who rent bikes to tell people to be careful, but to ride with the traffic, even though that lane, and I don't know if the county's planning on cleaning that up because the sand has inundated on that part so badly. So just a comment.
Yeah, the bikers will fall in the sand if they have the skinny tires. And
I understand. Yeah,
oh,
yeah. But
okay.
I'm just saying they should be in the road,
right,
that rather than driving against the traffic, Linda. It's a lot more dangerous coming in.
right, right.
Okay.
I think
Okay,
that
Sandy, did you have a comment or question?
I did. It was just about trash pickup and about, after the hurricane. And, we were hit so severely with Ian and Sanibel and Captiva. We had, Ashford, all the national people coming in and they were sent by the state of Florida and nationally to our area. Well, now, it hit north of us. So all those crews are there. And so basically, I think we're kind of left with waste, waste management that we work with. And when you go to Boca Grande, I was just there again yesterday, there's still mountains of furniture and debris. And there's not one business that I'm aware of right now that's open, unless it opened yesterday. Every single, including my Key Lime Bistro, where I have to tear out the entire floor of the historic train station, which is, never flooded since it was built in 1800s. So, so although we're not happy that we're not getting picked up, I mean, misery doesn't love company, but yet I think we have to be understanding that I think they're trying to do everything they can. And it's been just devastating on everybody.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sandy. I guess I had no idea how severely damaged Boca was.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah, and Mike Sawicki, he had his hands full with enraged people wanting to go and check on their businesses and people that weren't, because we weren't allowed for several weeks. I was going by boat, and so he had his hands full, I know. And but anyway, I just thought I'd let you know, because they're so close by, you wouldn't think there'd be such a remarkable difference in the amount of destruction, but there was a remarkable difference. But the Gasparilla Inn, they say that they're going to open by about mid-December, and that because their main inn, I guess, didn't, but it was the outlying cottages that got most of it. But the whole main street with, few gates and all we all had about maybe 5 to 6 feet of water, the post office, everything. And that's in Lee County. So I think maybe some attention's going there, and rightfully should be.
Yeah, I was told, Sandy, that Boca right after the hurricane that there were resources were stretched because Boca was hit so hard. They couldn't get onto the island, and so the Department of Transportation for the county had to be there, and they were working very hard over there. Right before the hurricane, I was speaking with the Department of Transportation, who was about to make sure and cut back any of the vegetation that was on the shoulders in response to Tony's concerns about bicyclists. and they were gonna clean that all up and make sure those two shoulders were completely cleared. Now those shoulders are filled with sand, so I think I will, again, talk to the people I spoke to about that and just make sure that they're gonna clear the sand in the same way they would have cleared the debris. I mean, ironically, not the Jensen's curve, but the curve that's south of that had all the vegetation that was growing right onto the road there on that curve, all that's gone. So now it'll be a certain way much easier for the county to clear those two shoulders. There's very little on the shoulders now other than dead vegetation and sand.
All right.
Okay, any other comments, questions, discussion items? Ken, anybody in the audience have anything?
No.
Okay, I guess if nobody has anything else to comment on the hurricane, we'll go ahead with the normal agenda. Is first up, Rich, do you have any comments you'd like to make that you haven't already made?
Probably speak for a couple hours about the hurricane. So at another time, we'll have those type of discussions. But it was very tricky after that hurricane to get things, running and the roads back open and things. But what I would like to mention is that we've noticed an increase and continued increase in contractors, subcontractors, workers out here. And it's probably going to continue for a while. So I just want your audience to know and keep an eye out that you're going to see a lot of people out here working. They're going to clog up the roads. They're going to construction equipment and trucks that are going to be on the road and just going to have to be patient because as they're trying to do their cleanup, and a lot of them are staying out here too. So at night, you might see more people, whether they're walking around or whether they're, hanging out at houses, just keep a mindful ear out. And, the old saying is if you see something, say something, just there's going to be an increase in population out here for workers and people.
Right.
I've seen people, or I've talked to people and they're from Louisiana and Texas and other parts of this state and other states coming in and working. So, but they're doing their best they can. We're fortunate that we have those workers out here to try to, as fast as they can, get things back up in order. Another thing I'd like to mention is there's no beach parking right now on Captiva, but some of our guests and visitors that are coming in don't know that, or they're not going online and checking. And so they're trying to park their cars at Turner Beach or Allison Hagerup, but especially Turner Beach because they want to go fishing at Blind Pass.
Right. Yeah, I see a lot of people fishing on the bridge. Most of the times I go past there and I wonder where those people are parking.
They're parking right behind the no parking sign and the beach closed sign.
Yeah.
And we're tackling that, but expect it to happen. So, it's just unfortunate. I know it's a great fishing spot and people go there every year if they come down to visit, or if they come, even our local residents from Cape Coral or Fort Myers, they come in and want to fish on that bridge. They find out that there's no parking and that's, they want to fish. So
So they're going to find a way. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Rich, anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thanks from your community for all your help during.
Yeah, you're
During
welcome.
this
It was a team effort. It certainly was a team effort.
Okay. Thanks, Rich. Jeff, do you have some comments?
Yeah, I've got a few things that we can add. I obviously, we appreciate the community support, and I think that goes without saying. That's you guys know we're here for you, and we know you're there for us, and you guys support us, always have, and we truly appreciate that as public safety individuals. As Rich said, it's a team effort. It's no one person. This is what we signed up to do, and this is our community, and we're there for you, and we're always going to be there for you. So whatever that role is, you guys know, yeah, we're a fire department, but I'm sure you've seen us fill a lot more roles than what you think a fire department
Right.
probably traditionally does. So, that's not going to change. We're here for you, and we really appreciate you guys as a community. It is a special place. So we are here for you. But I would echo the need to have kind of a hurricane specific / resiliency conversation going forward. What we saw, what did work, what didn't work. I do think we probably do need to get a little bit outside of hurricane season before we have that conversation, and have that let things slow down. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it is only November 12th. So just because it's November, we're definitely not out of the woods. There is still another system forming down there that does have the potential, and the reality of being in the Gulf by next week. So we'll just kind of keep our fingers crossed, and we'll watch that and hope it doesn't, but stay vigilant and know that that's still possible. So with that, our phones are finally back working at the fire station. Not all of them, but our main number is. So if you guys need something, that number is back in service and functioning. Any updates, if anything does develop, will be kind of put on there and sent back out to that kind of group. I started with you guys as the panel before. So hopefully we don't need it, but we have those back together. With the resiliency, I will say, yes, the county did a great job after assisting with the roads and everything else. I do have some serious concern with the solution to Jensen's area right now. Yes, they have placed riprap there. The size of the riprap they are using is not going to do what we need it to do. I can assure you of that. All you have to do is look at the blind pass area on Sanibel side where they have that big seawall with a concrete cap, and they had the whole backside filled with almost the exact same size stones. And as soon as that water comes ashore, it pushes all that right back on top of the road and then makes it almost impossible to get through. So I do appreciate the efforts they are putting in. It is something, but I don't think that's the solution for the island going forward. So that's why I say those conversations probably need to be furthered as we go along, and whatever that looks like. We internally have had to have those same conversations, looking at some of our response apparatus now that we've had, Debbie wasn't a hurricane for us, but Debbie did bring a lot of problems to the island as well. So if you want to count Ian, Debbie, Helene, and Milton, that's 4 storms that we've had in 2 years that's caused water and sand to wash over the road. So we're having to look at some of our response vehicles as well for those high water and sand ability to get through. So, it's not just the island that needs to be resilient. We're looking at those processes and functions and apparatus that we have internally to respond for you guys. Other than that, I think that's the majority of it. We are back to work, and I'll let you guys get back to your meeting, but I will continue to work with FEMA and or the county. David, again, if you need another phone call to somebody, just let me know. We'll see what we can get done, but I'll continue to work with them as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jim,
And so Jeff, you're going to talk with FEMA, and I think we're willing to have a special meeting of the panel, if they want it. So
yep, I'll continue to work with Joanna and see what we can work out, figure out best solution and whatnot. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
okay, thanks,
Hey,
Jeff.
Jeff, can I ask you a question? It's
Yeah, of
Bruce.
course, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess that you guys made the decision to leave the older of the 2 fire trucks on the island, which I guess in hindsight, given that fire, was an excellent decision. But can you maybe just talk to that? Because I thought you guys were gonna evacuate both vehicles, and maybe we got lucky that we didn't. But what maybe just take us through that.
Yeah, so you are right. We did leave the older of the 2. We left the one that's already scheduled and needs to be replaced. Let's go back, to Charlie or that time period. During evacuations, they may have taken all of their equipment. Fast forward to Ian, and we see what can actually happen and what need to be done. If we leave with all of our equipment and we leave nothing here, and there's no causeway, you guys have zero serviceability until we can get a barge to bring trucks back out here. If we all think back to Ian, how long it took to get a barge to Captiva for a fire truck, we would have had zero responsibility for over a week out here. Directly after a storm, that's not the time to have no responsibility. So, you know, we play that gamble. We hope the fire station is fortified and high enough that the apparatus that we have here is still here when we get back. So we leave part of our fleet here, we take part of our fleet with us. You know, in this instance, it kind of proved exactly why we need that. If we would have taken everything off, just with the amount of sand still on the road, even if we took both off, the causeway was there, we still wouldn't have been able to get an apparatus back out here to be useful until all that sand was cleared. So, you know, that's what we have insurance for, and you know, in that worst case scenario. But yeah, that's kind of the thought behind it. We can't take everything, so we take one, we take the engine, and we take our boat, because the boat is usually our best bet to get back here. For instance, this hurricane, we had half the crew came back on our fireboat, and then the other part of us came by road to see what we could traverse. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, that was a great decision in hindsight. So
yeah, so you know, Fort Myers Beach was in that same situation, and I think they're taking the other approach. They don't want to have the risk of losing any more apparatus, so when they evacuate all of their apparatus. For us out here, I just think we're too vulnerable for that to happen. So, like I said, we take that chance and have to leave apparatus here that we can hopefully utilize when we get back. And we'd have to take. We'd probably have to take at least 4 feet in the apparatus bay before it would ruin the vehicles we leave here. Because, you know, with the hurricane shut, those big doors have big, massive hurricane shutters as well. Not the pretty brown ones that look like wood. In front of those, there's a big white hurricane shutter that rolls down on those doors. So with the building being fortified, it's concrete, you know, impact doors, this and that. I'm confident in any debris or wind that we might get, but we'd have to get a significant amount of water, more than what we have to destroy our apparatus that we leave here.
I guess there's these. I know at Sanctuary they put in these metal water gates. I'll say like you can put in front of your garage door. You know, you can specify the height, and it keeps the water out completely. I'm going to look at that for my personal home, because if storm surge is going to become a problem, I just want to keep the water out. But that might be something that's worth looking at for the station.
Yep. So we actually have panels that are like that inside the bay. Once you go in there for the smaller rooms, the electrical room, workroom, stuff like that. They are not 100%. They do still let water in. From what we had used in 2015. Obviously technology's changed, so I am looking at another company that makes a new version similar to what we have. Obviously protecting those bay doors, we've got the big 3 on the front, as well as doors in the back. It is a large area that you know, we would have to kind of get up as soon as we're going to leave, kind of thing. It does obviously hinder us once we get back trying to remove all of that stuff. So that was why we didn't protect the big doors initially and just went with the inner components of it. But I am meeting with another vendor just to see what those newer options are, and are they any better than what we have.
Makes sense.
So, but yeah, thank you for that.
Did you conclude that the fire at Ventura Captiva was lightning related? Do we know?
It was not. It was considered accidental and unknown due to the amount of damage. I do think obviously their private investigators are going to dig into it more. Ours concluded that there was no lightning directly in the area due to all the weather reports. The closest lightning strike in that remote time period was over 1.5 miles away. If I'm remembering right, there was not any in that direct vicinity at that time period. I am still waiting on LCEC's report from them, but it does appear that the building was still energized during that portion of the storm, and they do have electrical components under the building. So, you know, stuff could have gotten wet, could have got salt spray on it, could have been a lot of things like that. But due to the damage, it was determined that building 4 was the initial cause of it, and then spread to building 5, and then towards building 1 and the pool area.
Okay. The only other thing I wanted to add, just in terms of the various responsibilities the fire department have, and during right after the hurricane, the Captiva Civic Association worked with Fish to bring meals for the utility workers that were here working with LCEC, for the fire department, for the sheriff's department, and for all the other construction crews that were doing the immediate post-hurricane rehab. And the fire department, including Jeff, were taking some of those meals and delivering it to people who were stranded on Captiva and could not get food anywhere else. So you talk about beyond the call of duty, that's in fact also what they were doing.
Yep, we did. Yep.
Okay. All right. Good. Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
you,
thank you
Jeff.
so much. Okay, Linda, can you give us a report on CEPD?
Okay, this is going to be a little longer report than usual, but I guess we've had incidences that make that reasonable. First, what I wanted to talk to everyone, because the nice thing about this is we have a forum where we have a lot of island owners who are listening. There's the beach, there's private property, and then there's CEPD responsibilities. The beach and the private property sort of have nothing to do with each other in some respects. There's private property lines, but the beach is really considered, and the dunes, wherever the beach and the dunes are. So it doesn't have anything to do with private property. That means that even though the owners need to follow the beach regulations and the private and the dune regulations on their property, and those regulations are set by the DEP. That means that you're not supposed to put any dirty sand in that area. And if you want to do any projects in front of the CCL line, you should be getting DEP approval. I believe, this is my opinion, is we had a lot of projects in front of the CCL line that really didn't help our resilience this time and caused more damage because of what people walking through the dunes, people building patios in the dunes, people having a lot of walkovers through the dunes, those kinds of things. So clean sand only on the beach and dunes. That's about it. We do have a sifter. If there are other private owners who will make use of this, let us know as soon as you can, immediately, and we will keep it there and we will reuse the sand. But you have to get it to the Hagerup Beach. We've put on 300 truckloads at this point. That's about 6,000 cubic yards of sand. But we will, if you can get the sand to us, we will put it on and repurpose it. As I said, the sand was placed starting at Hagerup and went south to about mid-Sunset Captiva. It's now being shaped and spread in general to a 6 feet height over sea level, an AVD. Question? No? And as I said, the county's going to be bringing up sand from Turner Beach and spreading it to reinforce the Jensen's Curve. We will be building dunes in front of that as well. It's probably a good idea. Jeff, you suggested that you're concerned there. It would be a good idea if we coordinate with the county on the resilience plan and the design for that curve, so that what we're doing supports what they're doing and we have a decent solution. We also have an upland sand project that we may or may not do. There's a $5 million grant to bring in sand from sand pits on land to help rebuild the dunes. If we get the grant, we will do it. If we don't get the grant, we won't, because of the relative cost of the sand versus what we will have in our renourishment. On our renourishment, it's contracted out to begin on May 1st and done pre-hurricane season. We are going to dredge sand from the Gulf. This is nicer sand than we get from the upland sand pits. The design intent is to have it be 10 to 12 feet high, which is the state recommendation, and have at least 3 feet of new sand to cover all the filtered repurposed sand that we put on the beach. It's going to have a 10-to-1 slope towards the beach. It will be consistent with what we need to do for turtles. The bids that we have contracted for this. The bids, it was at about 28 million with 800,000 cubic feet of sand. We can adjust it plus and minus like 20 or 25%. The board opinion is that Captiva may want it to be a larger renourishment due to the damage caused by Milton and Helene. The engineers are currently assessing this, trying to figure out how much we would need to be able to do the whole 10 to 12 feet. And then we have to figure out if that's what the island wants to do, if that's what we all think we should be doing, if it's like a $33 million project or something like that. We currently have about 16 million in grants from state and local governments. We don't have federal funding at this point from like the Army Corps, et cetera, and they're not doing it because they require more public access to the beaches. We have relatively little public access to our beaches on Captiva. The Florida Beach Association, et cetera, is arguing about this, and we're trying to get it resolved so we can get more federal money, but that's the way it is right now. We are working on additional grants for Milton and from Ian. We're working with Lee County and the state and every place we can find. I'm not sure when that's going to be resolved, but we're working on this. There's also a county commissioner meeting this in the next week or two where we'll be going in and asking for more help directly from the commissioners. In this renourishment for resilience, what we're going to be doing is actually doing a lot more plants with a lot more variety. We are planning on having a resilience plan done next year to see if there's something additional we can do that is cost effective to give us greater protection. There are ideas about putting offshore breakwaters, but the cost of those is really high. So we have to look at it and see if there's anything we can do that is cost effective. Some people put in reef balls out there. It's not clear what we can do that is going to be better. We're going to ask experts for more help. Next, whatever. Going forward, I think we've all learned that the state has good building codes. They work. We highly advise people to follow them. We can't stop all the surges. And also, I think we all need to take care of our dunes. I'll give you some examples of things I saw before, which made me a little crazy. I saw people taking sledgehammers to the rocks at the Jensen curves because their family fell over the rocks and got hurt. And so then they had a path right through there. I stopped it. They wondered who I was, just this woman riding through on a bicycle, but I was explaining that, no, you can't do that. I saw people put down artificial turf in the dunes. I saw people put pavers into the dunes to try to have a nice path in the dunes. I saw people clear the land because then they were going to have a nice, well, whatever. Putting things like patios, artificial turf, pavers, grills into the dunes is A, illegal, and B, it hurts everybody. Anything in front of the CCL line is illegal without a permit from DEP and approved by the CEPD. It doesn't matter if it's your property or not. It doesn't matter. People have property that goes into the water. Remember that, because we've had hurricanes before and lost the land. So CEPD is expect us to be more active, enforcing any projects with DEP that impact the dunes or the beach, and you need to coordinate with us. We will be staffing appropriately so we're not a big bottleneck. Anything else? And then finally, staff changes. We are going, the executive director is no longer with us, and we will be bringing in a new executive director and restaffing some of the positions soon. Questions?
Yeah, Linda, one comment, all the things that you described that, people are doing, which, defeats some of what CEPD is doing, trying to protect the island with dunes and so forth. My guess is that the public has very little understanding.
You're probably right.
Of what,
what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah.
Do you think people would show up if we had an evening program at 7 o'clock some night that talks about the dunes and what you can do and what you can't do and what we recommend? Or is that sort of a waste? Or what would you think we should do to help inform people?
I don't know exactly, Linda. It's just that, I don't feel like we get a lot of communication, from CEPD.
Okay, well, we'll take that and work on addressing it. It may be that we will send out more notices and actually use the panel to send out more information. Maybe that's the best way to do it, but we'll talk about it and do more communications. We're trying to be more activist here, and I realize our communication in the past hasn't been stellar on some of this. Okay.
Hey, Linda, I think, Linda, it's Bruce. I kind of agree. I think there is a need for a complete rethink on the communication plan, because it sounds like we're going through quite a change here in terms of dune height. I think that's a topic that everybody is very interested in, both from, I'd say, an aesthetic and a resiliency point of view. Same thing with your comment on dune replacement and what kind of plantings you guys are considering. I think there'll be a lot of interest in that, and I would bundle the, if we're going to build up the dunes and people are going to cut a path through it, it sort of defeats the purpose. And what are some practical options that maintain the dune height yet let people access the beach? So I think wrapping all those together, people are thirsty for that, would be thirsty for that information.
Okay, well, we intend to
I don't know what others people think. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
I agree.
I agree with what Bruce said. You might, when you put together your final plan, you might have a community meeting, to describe what the plan,
is, and I think there may be some concerns.
And then you can start, with that as a launch pad, helping people to understand what they should be doing and not doing.
Yeah.
I think your biggest problem is people don't really probably understand that everything that's going on, the thought that goes, behind it, and they're just looking at it from their own point of view. Gee, I want to be able to have my grandkids walk to the beach, so I'm going to put some pavers down.
Mhm.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And, and if anybody is we are going to do a presentation of our project, but what I would like to do is also have something more interactive, rather than just us present, but listen to the community on it and see what your feedback is.
Can we schedule that at a panel meeting, Linda, at like a presentation on this?
Sure.
One other
Because
question.
it sounds like you're like you threw out a lot of things there at the same time, but like the height of the dunes, the slope of the beach, the dune replacement, like we're not talking just like a business as usual renourishment here. We're sort of talking about, it sounds like you're looking at a lot of different variables this time around, which I applaud you for.
Well, it's some of it may be communications, we are going up because the state has recommendations for us to go higher. And the 10-to-1 slope is probably what always happened, but many of us didn't know that was what the design intent was. So yes, I would be glad to come in and present what we know and tell you what our plans are, and get your feedback.
Yeah, and I guess the other variable is like how far out do we go? Like, is it worth having more beach?
Well, we're all okay. It'd probably be nice, but we're already over what we consider the affordability.
Well, I think that's a separate issue though. Like, I think we should talk about that too then.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, just
Well,
remember.
it may be too late for this project.
No, we can put
in
in
terms of our future strategy here. I mean, I think I speak for a lot of people that live on our stretch, and the Tween Water stretch here is, look, what do we got to do so that we don't get water coming into our homes? And if that's like, we got to pay an extra whatever, I think a lot of people be in for it.
Mhm.
This is my opinion. The dunes can stop surge up to a point. But remember, if let's say we have a 10-foot surge, you're also going to have stuff coming in from the other side. Okay.
I understand.
Okay. And they shouldn't be considered a wall, like a dike. They're helpful. Well, this is my opinion, but they're not. We need to follow the building codes. If you want to build out underneath, you're going to have trouble. Okay. The state came up with good building codes. We can't protect you from if you have a concrete house on the bottom. The island is going to flood occasionally. It should flood less, but it's going to flood occasionally. And we need to learn how to live with it. That's from everything I have studied over, I don't know how many years I've been doing it. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but along the the Tween Water stretch, our road goes there, and I think it's important that we don't lose our road.
It's extraordinarily important if we don't lose our road. We were bringing in sand the day or two. We were the last on the island bringing in sand, trying to dump more sand on that curve to prevent it from going out. We were looking at things like putting big culverts that South Seas had, huge culverts. We were put to try to protect the road. We were trying to figure out everything we can do to protect the road. It ended up at being, and we couldn't get the bags. We were trying to get bags that, you can fill like that. I don't know what they're called. That with sand to use as temporary protection. It is not that we don't understand the importance of the road. It's not that we don't understand the importance of protecting it. So anyway, so we will come in, we will talk, we'll hopefully come up with a solution, and that is what the island wants. But recognize too, okay, let me give you an idea on how much, let's say we would get $20 million of funding, so that you understand the numbers here. And let's say this whole thing costs 30 million. That's 10 million. And let's say for ease of use, there's 1,000 homes. So what does that mean on average? That would be $10,000 a home, just straight lining. If it costs, and you can just keep going up. And that was just back of the envelope, not accurate. But it's expensive. And so people need to understand that as well as we work through this. We also think the question is, how often are we going to have to do this? None of us know the right answer to that. We also believe we need to get a bigger emergency fund of, I don't know, $3 million, $5 million to be able to come in after storms to repair if it needs to be done. So anyway, any more questions?
Linda, yeah, go ahead, John.
Oh, good. Jay, thank you, Jay. Linda, I know public access, Allison Hagerup Park. Do you have a timeline on when you think that'll reopen?
We talked about it in our last meeting, and I think the answer was January.
Oh,
okay.
Not before the holidays. So beach access on Captiva will be, it won't be through the holidays, won't be Allison Hagerup.
That's what we talked about in our last meeting. We all wanted it before the holidays to be able to open it up and as you know, and to get people on the beaches, but it may not be practical.
Okay, so we'll have Andy Rossi Lane, and that little path just to the south of the cemetery
Is one, and then there's also the other public accesses are Leica Lane and Whiteman, and then there is Turner Beach.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Hey, Linda, is there a possibility, I mean, I haven't been up there to be honest with you, sorry about that, but would Andreas be willing to let people park there? Is there parking available? And just, whether he could do it and God knows, maybe make money doing it. I don't care for the poor guy. I don't know if that's a possibility or is the liability too far stretched.
Yeah.
I don't know, but we can follow up and find out. Okay, Tony?
I would. I mean, there's 20 cars, 30 cars there, maybe. It might help out him and it might help out getting people on the beach. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea.
It would help the businesses too.
Yeah.
Not many people walking around the businesses in Captiva right now.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or questions?
There is a comment from a member of the audience, John Wades. I think the panel might be under the impression that the project is written in stone. That's not the case. We are actively planning dunes and amending beach specs as we speak, adjusting to new impacts from Milton and Helene. CEPD will be presenting details of dune plans and regulations later this winter once we make progress that can offer more clarity.
Thank you, John.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that comment from John, and yeah, I think it would be terrific, to have a session like that to explain to the public, the things that John, just said.
Mm-hmm.
That's very welcome comment. Okay, anybody have anything else for Linda, or should we move on?
Good.
Okay, Linda, thank you. I don't think anybody from SCCF was able to show up today. Is that correct, Ken?
Yes.
Okay, so then let's move on to where we are on the legal front with David Mintz. David, can you give us a summary of where we are with all the legal activity and so forth?
Sure, I can do that. The Protect Captiva Coalition is about to put out an update for the community that'll probably go out this afternoon. So I can just, and everybody will see it. It goes out from SCCF, it goes out from the panel, it goes out from the Civic Association. So everybody will have a sense of where we are, but I'll just summarize quickly for you. The first thing I want to say is that before the hurricane a couple of months ago, we were at about $750,000 in the legal fund, and we asked people to re-up, to donate again so that we can fund our legal work. And within a very short period of time, we raised $250,000. And we are now over the $1 million mark. And from our community, which has been incredibly generous. And I just want people to know that. And we've always felt to complete the legal work or come close to it, we would need about 1.5 million. And every time we've reached out for support, we've gotten more than what we've even anticipated. So I just want people to understand how supportive people are of the legal work that the Captiva Coalition is doing. And after Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene, I think it's been clear to almost everybody that the notion of increasing density on a fragile barrier island like Captiva just doesn't make any sense to anyone. So, I mean, I think that's becoming clearer and clearer. And I think that's helped us with our support, also with fundraising. As I've mentioned in the past, there are 3 legal matters that are all overlapping and pending at the same time. The first one, as you recall, South Seas has submitted an application now 4 or 5 times. Their final numbers that they've settled on is to build 196 2 to 4 bedroom condos and 2 hotels with a total of 435 units for a total of 631 units. They were entitled to 272 of the 912, so they've gone from 272 to 631. And they've submitted that application. It was reviewed by the county 4 times and deemed insufficient. Last week, it was deemed sufficient. And so what sufficient means is that they have completed the application and provided enough information so that the county staff can make an informed recommendation one way or the other as to whether they approve the application. And then that application gets presented, goes to and assigned to a hearing examiner. And the county has proposed that the hearing examiner commence hearings on this application on February 26th. And they're proposing that it be at least 3 days, February 26th.
Where is it?
27th and February 28th. And so what happens is that the county will make a recommendation, but then it goes to an independent hearing examiner. She will take testimony from all those people who have an interest in this proposal, in this application. That would include property owners at South Seas, it includes property owners on Captiva and Sanibel. It would include the coalition of expert witnesses or attorneys, and the hearing examiner will then, after hearing, make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. So that's the first thing that's happening. We got a sufficiency application, and we have hearings that will take place on tentatively scheduled starting on February 26th. We are prepared to present a full set of witnesses and expert testimony as to why the application should not be granted, and that South Seas should be limited to the 912 units that has governed and defined South Seas for the last 50 plus years. So that's where we are on the number 1. Number 2, after 5 days of trial before an administrative law judge at the Division of Administrative Hearings, where we claimed that the code amendments that exempt South Seas from the density limits that apply to everybody else on Captiva, that those code amendments are inconsistent with the Lee plan, which requires that the county enforce a rule that requires the county to maintain the historic development pattern on Captiva. The historical development pattern on Captiva, as everybody knows, is 3 units per acre for both hotel rooms and for residential dwelling units. So that we were having trouble getting the transcripts because of the hurricane, but the transcripts for the 5 hearing dates that took place are now complete. And all sides are now preparing proposed final orders. That's like a brief as to what they believe the administrative law judge should hold. And those will be submitted within the next couple of weeks, and then the judge will issue an opinion. We are cautiously optimistic that our case was better and stronger than the case of South Seas and the county. And we're hopeful that the administrative law judge will find that the code amendments that allowed all of this to happen is inconsistent with the Lee plan. And therefore, we would then request, if she makes that decision, that the code amendments that allow this to happen be repealed, and that the governor's office enforce that decision. So that's number 2. And number 3, as everybody knows, we have that 203 settlement agreement between Lee County, the Captiva Civic Association, and the developer of South Seas back in 2003. And that settlement agreement basically provided that the total number of dwelling units on South Seas is limited to 912. And most importantly, that the county can issue no building permits at any time that would exceed that number of 912 units on South Seas. So the county and South Seas made a motion to dismiss, filed a motion to dismiss. That was denied by the judge. The judge did not grant the motion to dismiss. And now all parties are submitting motions for summary judgment. We're asking the court to find that the settlement agreement is both valid and enforceable. And the county and South Seas together are arguing in the motion that the county, that it's not enforceable because basically the county didn't have the authority to make that agreement back in 2003. We disagree with that completely. And the motions are being filed. The court is setting dates for the oral argument on those cross motions. And then the judge will issue a decision. So those are 3 things that I've been speaking about now for quite a while. And those are all coming to fruition. We're going to know sooner rather than later about how successful we are there. And so that's where we are. There may be some other legal action that may be coming down the pipe very shortly. And as soon as that's finalized, I will let everybody know that. But meanwhile, nothing bad has happened. Everything that we've anticipated has taken place. We will eventually get a decision we don't like, but so far we have not. And people are very supportive, and we keep going forward. And that's about it, Jay.
Okay, well, David, thanks a lot for that summary. Do you have any idea what the best case scenario might be when we could say, victory, we're going to be able to preserve, the codes and keep them in place that we already had? When is this, as soon as possible, something like that, might happen? And then I guess on the other hand, how long could this, go? Maybe those aren't fair questions.
I think they're fair. I mean, in terms of the DOR proceeding, the inconsistency of the code with the plan, I suspect that all the proposed final orders will be filed within sometime in early December, mid-December at the latest. And then I would guess the judge would not take more than a month to decide this case. So that would be, so I'm saying mid-December, mid-January. And certainly by the end of January, I would suspect we'd have a decision from the administrative law judge. And if she finds that the code amendments are inconsistent with the plan, that's a brand new ballgame.
Right.
The question is, how does the county react to that? And what does the state do in terms of enforcing it? And we're going to have to be very active in getting the result that we want, but that will change the whole dynamic, because basically then we have a final order of a judge saying those code amendments should not have been passed. In terms of the other case, motions, I suspect the summary judgment motions will be heard sometime in probably maybe January, and then the court has as much time as it wants to make a reasoned decision. But it'll certainly be in early winter at the latest, and if the judge finds that the settlement agreement is valid, then we go in and get an injunction, basically prohibiting the county from issuing any building permits over the 912. And so the rezoning process for South Seas can continue. They can move things around. They can replace employee housing with other kinds of condominiums or even hotel units, but their rezoning will be limited by a density limitation of 912 units.
Right.
And so, we would support the redevelopment of South Seas within the limits that have been in existence for over 50 years. The plan application process, if you have 3 hearing dates, so 4 or more in the end of February, that'll be completed. A hearing examiner would then issue her decision, maybe sometime in March or April, I don't know. And then there would be, her recommendation would then go before the Board of County Commissioners, probably around the same time, I'm guessing around June or May or June. And the Board of County Commissioners would either have to agree with they would have to agree with the findings of the facts of the hearing examiner, but if they think the hearing examiner got it wrong on the law, they could change that. But I would suspect that they would approve the recommendation of the hearing examiner. And so that's a very important process. We will have lots of witnesses and the public at the hearing before the hearing examiner. And then those who participate in that process can also testify before the Board of County Commissioners when it comes before them. So that's a much more public process, which we will help to coordinate. Protect Captiva will help to coordinate and make sure everybody's voice is heard who wishes to speak and has an interest in this. And so in answer to your question, I think a lot's going to happen in the next couple of months. And I suspect by the beginning of the summer, this is all going to be pretty clear about where it's going. There may be some other litigation that will be pending, but I'm not sure it would affect the timetable very much. So again, this all started in June of 2023, and I suspect it would be concluded by June of 2025, one way or the other. And as those things happen, you just don't know how things change. You don't know whether the new owners of South Seas begin to reevaluate. You don't know whether their investors reevaluate. You don't know if there are other people interested in doing things there. I just don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's all going to be dependent on this litigation.
Right. Okay. Well, David, I know I speak for a lot of people. You've really devoted yourself to the defense of Captiva and what we've always been, and it's so appreciated. Thank you so much.
David,
any other comments, questions for David?
There's a question from the audience. Any update on the water park permit?
Ken probably knows better than I do on that. I have not been directly involved with the permitting of things that are permitted, so to speak, on on South Seas. I've been focusing on height and density and the code amendments. Ken, do you know if there's been any permitting for the water park that's been controversial over the past couple of months?
From what has been said, they do have their permits to start the water park, and there's already been some activity on the site. So they had their slide components delivered to the site as well. So I assume that they're going to go hot and heavy on that. There's a construction trailer that's in the parking lot adjacent to it. Now, if anybody has recently been inside the resort, the sort of shocking element to what they're doing is their new beach house restaurant. They recently installed the roof trusses, and the roof trusses just about are on the edge of the road, the access easement road. I'm sort of shocked that there is not a setback from the edge of that roof line from the access road.
Yeah, I mean, the question on the water park, I mean, or anything else that's being constructed at South Seas is they probably can do some amenities and various other things on site that are consistent with the current zoning, which is memorialized in the administrative interpretation. But anything that increases density or building heights have to get approved through this rezoning process. So anything that they're doing now is consistent or has to be consistent with the existing zoning approvals. Whether that's true of the water park, it's just something that I'm just not familiar with. I'm assuming if the county has issued permits, their view is that it's consistent with the existing zoning and is permitted even if there was no change in the code or any other changes that South Seas is seeking.
There's another question. Does the lawsuit impact any development within South Seas other than density?
Yeah, it affects the 5 code amendments that were passed by the county without speaking with the community first. And that would include not only the increase of density, which under the current code for hotels would be no actual limit, no numerical limit. But we know what they're asking for is 2 hotels with a total number of rooms of 435 at this point. In terms of the lawsuits, yes, they are seeking new building heights on South Seas of 45 feet above base flood elevation. Base flood elevation with the additional 4 feet that's permitted on the new code will create buildings as high as 65 feet or maybe a little more. Those are being also contested in the lawsuit because that moves them outside the building heights that that are permitted on the rest of Captiva. So yes, and the code amendments would also, upon request and in meeting certain conditions, would allow buildings on South Seas to be built at 75 feet above base flood elevation if they meet certain requirements, such as it improves scenic views or better for the environment or better for open space. So if they make a claim that a 75-foot building above base flood elevation is appropriate, they can go up to, if you add the base flood elevation, up over 90 feet. So that's why we're challenging the code, because we're not just concerned about what they've currently asked for, but what the code would permit going forward 5 years from now, 10 years from now, et cetera. So in answer to the question directly, yes, it is, we are contesting not only the density, but density limitations, but also the new heights that they're requesting.
Okay, anything else for David?
Actually, there's one other one that just popped up. Is the resort
Sure.
application available to the public?
Yes, it is. It is. The resort application is available on the on the county website. It's hundreds of pages. A lot of it is, survey data, but it is available. And if you go into the zoning, Ken, what is the website? I know you do this all the time.
leagueof.com, and you would search for the file number.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that information, if you go to LeagueOf and you go to the community building site, there's a tab on the left-hand side called Document Search. And you're going to go into the zoning case files. And I believe that zoning case is DCI 2023-00051.
In the new update that is going to be issued today, there are 3 attachments to that update. One is the sufficiency letter that the county community development department just issued, which basically is what I reported on, that is now sufficient, and they're proposing dates in February for the hearing. And then there were 2 comment letters that were submitted to the county. One from the Protect Captiva lawyer, Richard Grosso, which is a new approach to, new issues that have arisen and why the application shouldn't be granted. And then there's another comment letter from Gerald Murphy, who was actually worked for the county and drafted the administrative interpretation back in 2002. And his letter is an extremely interesting, well put together letter explaining why the application shouldn't be granted. And this is drafted by someone who knows this issue inside and out, since he drafted the administrative interpretation, which today still governs development on South Seas, and which includes the statement that all future and current and future development is limited to 912 units. So it's for those people interested in the application and the issues that the application raises. It's worth reading those 2 letters that are going to be attached to the update that's going to go out this afternoon.
Okay, anything else for David? David, thanks so much for very thorough report. And as I said previously, thank you for, everything you're doing to preserve our island as we know it and want it to remain. Moving on, wastewater committee update. That's my topic. There's nothing new to report. Sanibel is still working on the final consulting study that needs to be done, which is a study that tells Sanibel what the economic impact will be of them handling our wastewater for Captiva, which would then lay the groundwork for whatever buy-ins might be necessary for people to pay to have South Seas process our wastewater. Aside from that, the larger issue is what will be Sanibel's appetite for a sewer system on Captiva, and what will Captivans' appetite for a sewer system be if it turns out that our building codes, our land use policies cannot be enforced. There will be tremendous concern throughout Captiva and Sanibel that if we're unsuccessful in our legal efforts, that having a sewer system will rapidly promote more and more development on Captiva. So I think before the sewer project ever, really moves on, we're going to have to bring the South Seas issue to a resolution. So with that, I'll ask if anybody has any questions on it.
Hey, Jay, I got a question for you is, you know, with this whole Sanibel, delays, I'll say,
Yeah.
the time thing that this thing is stretched out, and
Yeah, I mean,
And-
it's just remarkable how long it's taken to do these,
Yeah,
sample
yeah, yeah.
consulting studies, right?
and combined with like huge costs that we hadn't originally thought. Is it worth thinking about going back to a strategy where we expand the waste treatment plant that's outside of South Seas and
Yes.
put in our own sewer system and kind of bypass this whole Sanibel. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but
No, I understand.
yeah,
No,
so it's
to
just a
answer-
question.
Yeah, to answer your question, yes, that is an alternative.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of getting to the point, like, again, everybody, a lot of us along the Tween Water stretch, I mean, basically we're getting ocean water into our septic system every, like 2 or 3 times a year, or in the last 3 years. It's just not a sustainable situation, and there's no way to address it, right? Because
Right.
you can't raise it up or something like that. So anyway, I know we kind of got into an approach where Sanibel was the way, and I know Lee County, Kevin Wayne wanted to get rid of the processing plants on the island, but just seems like we're heading towards something that's inevitably going to be so expensive and unbearably costly unless we get significant government funds that I think we should look at a different option.
Right. No, Bruce, your point is well taken, and I'm well aware that there is another alternative.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not being
There, it
critical, I'm
has
just
its
saying, yeah.
disadvantages also, but it may come to a point where we have to seriously look at, that other
Yeah, because then we don't have to fix the Donax lift station. We don't have to run a pipe, for 5
Right.
miles. We don't have to, there's a lot of savings that we would have that we could put into fortifying or modernizing the treatment plant that's already here. So anyway, I just throw it out there.
No, that's a good question. I'm well aware of it, and I am,
Okay.
thinking through those possibilities, and we have done, cost work and so
Yeah.
forth.
Okay.
On that, but it would be very difficult to, try to approach that kind of an alternative now with all the lawsuits.
Oh, I agree with that.
so forth. So
Although that plant is owned by
FGUA,
Yeah,
true,
right.
right? No, your point is taken, and that I am, thinking through.
Okay.
It is on the table.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just want to say, I don't think that issue is particularly complicated by the lawsuits. I think both Jay and Bruce are correct. That's owned by FGUA. There is some discussion in the county of taking over some of the FGUA plants and running them through the county's own utilities department. There is discussion of that. And so those are possibilities. I think the biggest problem would be with that plan is whether the Army Corps of Engineers and DEP would allow for an expansion of a plant in a mangrove forest surrounded by water. And because, as you know, if there are leaks or problems, it goes into the bay. And we've had a couple of leaks just within the past couple of weeks before the hurricanes, where water got leaked into the surrounding environment. So I think that would be the biggest issue. And I know that Jay's been talking to engineers about that possibility.
Right.
Okay.
What's happened.
Question.
But I agree with Bruce. Not only are you getting sand in the septics, we're getting groundwater that is making it impossible for the drain fields to work because the water is backing up into people's homes, wastewater. And we've even had cases in the village where the tanks, the septic tanks have popped out of the ground
Really?
through the pressure of the groundwater. So I think septic systems have some very limited future, a limited future on Captiva. Yeah, Sandy.
I have a question. I've mentioned this before, but you know, where the power lines go over to Pine Island and there's access for utilities that way, is there any thought or any way of I've mentioned it a few times to the county, but of sending it that way?
Say that again, Sandy. I'm not sure I understand.
Underwater piping across. Because it's, you know, it's done a lot. I mean, they do tunnels underwater, they do all kinds of things. I don't know. And if it's already in the access where the power lines are, you know, it's not like you're creating a new access, it's already there. So and I have mentioned that before. Is there any traction on that? Is that like a good idea, a bad idea? I have no clue, but I just thought I'd throw that out.
Aren't the power lines, Sandy, coming out of it's in Sanibel, right? It crosses over into Sanibel.
Then you'd have to figure out how to connect it, but
Yeah. So we still have to get the wastewater to Sanibel somehow. Unless we connect it by pipe from Captiva to where the power lines are. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no clue, you know, and so I might have just brought up the most environmentally sensitive thing in the world. So I have no clue, but I'm trying to think of options of how to take care of the problem, because it's not going to get any better. We know it's just it's a time bomb.
That's right. It is a time bomb. I agree.
Hey, others?
No, for the time being, until there is a way to attach into public sewage, there are different residential systems. There is what is called a residential water treatment system. It requires electricity. It's a 3-chamber system. They come in different houses depending on how many bedrooms the houses have. And what it pretty much does is, with the help of aerating the mess, it breaks the water down, and then the effluents, the treated water, is used to irrigate your plants. We have one here at our house, but it does. You also need electricity, but that way you don't have to have the septic system, the drain field. And very often the drain field is the problem, because the water levels are too high for the drain fields, or, you know, they get too much sand. They stop working after X amount of years. So there are residential treatment, wastewater treatment systems that one could look into.
That don't require a drain field?
No, they don't require a drain field, because they really break down the matter so much that you have an enriched water, and we use it to irrigate plants. And the health department comes at least once a year and checks the system to assure that everything is working properly. You need electricity because you have an aerator in one of the tanks to add extra oxygen. And but I feel it's an incredible system if you don't have a public sewage system.
Right.
Sounds like a miniature sewer plant. And
It is.
probably, do you have a holding tank then, Myri, for when the effluent is finally finished? Does it go into a holding tank and then that pump is used to irrigate with?
Yes, you pretty much have 3 tanks. The first one is the holding tank, and then it flows from there into another tank where it's aerated, and then it flows from there to a third tank where it is pumped out through the perforated hoses to irrigate. And when you pump it out, there's a filter that holds back certain things. So once in a while, we have to check the filter. But all in all, we've been really very happy with the system. And in the beginning, I didn't like the idea because we have all these power outages. So I was thinking, what are we going to do when there's no power? But even with the power outages as we had them, the system had no problem.
You know, Margaret, do you do any chlorination of the final tank or no?
No, none at all.
Okay.
None at all.
Thank you.
Yeah, Margaret, thanks for bringing that to my attention. I'll get back to you and try to understand that more.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you. Anyone else? Okay, well, let's move on. Next is Stormwater Committee update. We've got that as Linda, but I also know where that stands now. The county approved something like $200,000 to do an engineering study that would lay out the design for a stormwater management system for the village. That went out to bid, and the county has received, I think, 2 bids, and that's as far as I know where we are right now. David, do you have anything more on that from the county, or?
I do. They got well more than 2 bids.
Oh, okay.
And they've had a couple of meetings and they've selected, from what I understand, from one of the bidders who didn't get selected. My understanding is that there are 3 finalists now in the bidding process. One is called Johnson, Merman, and Thompson, JMT. Another is Weston and Sampson. And the third is Respect, RESPEC. That's what I've been told. You can't go to the bank on this, but I've been told those are the 3 finalists. They're going to be evaluated, and I assume that there will be a process shortly where one will be selected, and then presumably they will enter into contract with the county to do the study. But where we are right now, Jay, and I think it got held up a couple of weeks because of the hurricane, but where we are right now are with 3 finalists for that project to design and engineer a stormwater management system for the village, which is desperately needed.
Right. Right, David, do you know if we will be able to have substantial or a working relationship with the engineering firms that do this study?
I'm assuming the answer to that is yes. One of the finalists I've been in touch with, and I've provided documentation about the pre-existing drainage systems in the village, and they've asked for photographs and information about where the worst flooding is in the village. And I suspect that whoever gets the bid, whoever gets the job, will want to meet with the community, and we'll work it out through the panel to give them as much information as we possibly can, anecdotal and photographs and concerns. Obviously, the concern is everything gets dumped into that storm scepter at the end of Andy Horsey Lane and gets dumped into the bay, and it gets clogged. And when there's a high tide, the water doesn't get out, so it just floods Binder and it floods Captiva Drive, and it's just a system that's not working. So they have to understand all that. They have to understand the history of the flooding, and I suspect, Jay, that they will work closely with the community. It would be foolish not to.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Next up is panel nominations update. Okay, so to recap where we are, I have reached the end of my term limits and will not be on the panel next year. I am a CCW designate, and they have selected Michael Bennett to replace me. I know Michael. I think he's going to be an outstanding addition to the panel. CPOA needs to replace Ken Gill, who does not wish to serve a second term for the panel, and CPOA has informed me that John Wade will be their designate to the panel. The panel nominating committee has met, and as I've told you before, they have believed that David Mintz should be granted another 3-year term. We will all need to vote on that in December to accept the panel's nominating committee's recommendation. Meanwhile, anybody else who wishes to be considered for the panel nomination is welcome to submit resumes, which we will share with the panel, and then we'll have a vote in December regarding fulfilling the panel nominating committee designate to the panel. Any questions on that?
Yeah, let's see. Will you, Jay, stay on as the wastewater czar?
Yeah, I think I probably will. I need to think that through. I don't intend to sever my relationship with the panel because I'm going off. I think the panel does important work, and it will be my intent to stay involved in some capacity with the panel. And certainly, if you all want me to continue on with wastewater, I will do that.
Okay.
It's in your contract, Jay. Your contract goes for another 5 years on that. I just looked it up.
Okay. All righty. Okay, next up, Development Committee. Ann Brady, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I just have two things. One is the year-end appeal letter will be going out at the end of this month. And secondly, we have the Captiva cruise coming up on Tuesday, December 3rd. And I want to thank Sandy Stillwell, RC Otters, and Tony Lappy, Tween Waters, and Tim McGraw, Green Flash, who have all said they will generously donate food for the cruise. So thank you very much.
That's terrific.
Yeah, it really is.
Sure that
Really is.
everybody knows when they're picking up the delightful food, you know, that who has brought them this food and donated it.
Yeah, well, we'll have signs prominently displayed thanking them. But yeah, I mean, particularly, you know, after everybody's going through cleanup and getting things, you know, back to normal. So it's even more appreciated because it's a tough time.
You're
yes.
you're obviously a Met fan, Ann, because it's Tim McGowan.
Yes.
Oh, it's Tim McGowan. Sorry. Yeah.
McGraw's good though too, because it could be a singer.
Yeah.
And question, are you coordinating the menus so there's no overlap, in other words, or are you?
Yes, I will. I heard from the other two what they're bringing, so I'll email you what they're.
Kimmy. Yeah, if you got Kimmy's,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Yeah,
Thanks, Ann.
I will do that. Thank you, Tony. And so we have 78 people signed up for the cruise. 100 is maximum. So keep that in mind. It's 3 more weeks. And we'll be, what do you call it? Pushing off at 4:15.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, that's it. So we look forward to that.
Thank you, Ann. Anybody have questions for Ann? Okay, we're nearing the end here, folks. Any panel member comments or questions before we adjourn?
I had one, Jay. It's Bruce here.
Yes.
Could Sandy? I don't know if Sandy's still on the line, but maybe she could she let us know kind of what the current status is on her opening her establishments on the island?
Oh, thank you. Sure. And Key Lime Bistro, we thought we were going to be open by Christmas, but the two floods, they blew out the plumbing. So I had to jackhammer everything
Jeez.
out. And then we put it back in again, only to have it flooded with Milton. And we've now jackhammered that out. And we waited to pour, so the inspector is supposed to be out, I think, tomorrow. And then we can pour the concrete and get going again. But it's been difficult. So RC Otters, that's back open. And the Cantina Captiva, we originally thought we only had to go up about a foot, and but the moisture meter said higher, so now we had to go up about 4 feet on the walls. The contractor's there today working on that. We hope to have that back, so every piece of equipment totally got flooded. Even my food trucks got flooded.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So who would have thought? But it was the 2 food trucks totally flooded, all new equipment. So I'm ordering equipment as we speak. Sunshine, I'm going to try to have it open by Friday. I was just
Yay.
back, yeah, and I'm hoping that we'll have it open by Friday. And then La Tida, since it's flooded now, and I'm actually, I have all the architectural drawings done and everything to pull the permits. But now I'm thinking maybe I need to have it, the building raised up a little bit. So I'm kind of weighing I missed the whole season for it, and whether that's the thing to do or not. So I don't know about La Tida, the little coffee shop, but so that's kind of pending. And then the inn, we have it out for bid right now for the rebuild of the Captiva Inn on both sides of the street. And that's about it.
Well, good luck.
Okay. Anybody else?
Jay,
Jay-
there are a couple of audience questions when you get to that point.
Absolutely,
Okay.
please.
Let me do a quick one. Is our intent to have our meetings on Zoom for the foreseeable future?
That I think is what we should be doing, because it allows us to have a greater reach, through the community. It's easier, for people to tune into a Zoom meeting than it is to try to appear in person. But so that's my thought on it. But I'm certainly open, to return to in-person meetings if that's what the panel would prefer.
It doesn't have to be either or. It could be a combination. We do it sometimes with CHRs, community housing, where part of us meets in person and the others can participate through Zoom. But actually, I like that format very much.
Okay, so it would be possible to, for example, maybe most of us meet in person, but then the audience could attend by Zoom. I think we've looked at that in the past. Ken, didn't you think there were a lot of issues with that, or do you have anything new on that?
We would need to upgrade our AV capacity or work with wherever we're meeting to make sure that we could mic it properly. It's very difficult to do a hybrid meeting and be interactive unless there are enough cameras for the live people to be seen and enough displays for the people who are calling in or Zooming in to be seen and participate actively and not just be members of the audience. So yes, it can be done, but it takes some AV expenditure to make it work.
Yeah, but I think, prior to COVID, right, the panel met in person, and I'm a big proponent of that, and figuring out how the best way to let people participate from the community. I think we just need to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. So you're in favor of a hybrid type solution,
Yes.
Bruce? Yeah.
Yes.
I think good things happen when people are in the same room together.
Yeah. No, I understand that completely. Yeah, I think in-person meetings, that's my own point of view. It's more productive, more interaction. So I don't know, Ken, I think maybe this means you ought to try to develop a plan for how we might do a hybrid meeting and what the cost might be. And then we would also have to figure out where we would hold such meetings.
That would probably be
Yeah.
the biggest question right now, since our previous meeting space is gone. It'd either
Yeah.
have to be Twin Waters or CCA.
What about if CHR, I don't know how big their room is, but they're already set up for it. We meet somewhere else? I mean, is that a possibility? I don't know enough. I know Doug,
Yeah.
Doug sits on the board there at CHR, and if they're open, they would have all the stuff set up. Is that right, Ken, or not? What do you think?
I don't know, Marguerite, what do you think of the capacity?
No, the meetings we had were just the board. It wasn't open to the public. So I don't know. There is a meeting tonight. Bruce, do you know if that's open to the public? It's at the community house.
That's,
I don't, are you asking me? I have no clue.
The other part is the community house, because that does have a big enough board table. I know the community foundation meets there, and we do the videos there, like with other people. So that, I'm just thinking other options for off campus. I mean, we're not gonna be on campus. I don't think my place is as good, but maybe people have done it before, and I know that SCA has that big boardroom that might work very well.
I can reach out to them.
Okay.
I think we should, if at all possible, we should be meeting on Captiva and not Sanibel.
Yeah,
I would assume that the CCA would have the possibility. Yeah.
CCA has advised me that they'd be happy to host the panel meetings.
Oh, that's good then. They have the capacity as well, so.
But that capacity needs to be either upgraded or somehow resolved, because I've had the opportunity of listening to some CEPD, and they're hybrid meetings in the sense that they have some people there and some people zoomed in, and it's impossible, very difficult to hear people. It's very difficult to participate in that process. So I think that, Ken, if you could work with CCA and just figure out how best to make that system work in a way that Marguerite has said she's experienced it, then we can definitely hold meetings at the CCA.
Okay, I'll reach out and start the discussion, see what we can come up with a plan.
okay. Thank you. Good suggestion. I'm glad we discussed that. Okay. Anybody have anything else? Is there anything from the audience, Ken?
Yes, there are a number of statements or questions. I'll start from the beginning. The CEPD commissioner made a comment earlier about expanding the role of the CEPD to include review of all projects forward of the coastal construction control line. I disagree that this is the role of the CEPD, and it concerns me that they are moving in a direction to supersede the authority of the Florida DEP. All projects forward of the coastal construction control line require approval of the FDEP, and the vast majority of homeowners who undertake large-scale construction forward of the line obtain all the necessary approvals. The CEPD should focus on beach nourishment only. We do not need another layer review, given that we already have the county and the FDEP that provides those functions today. Was the first comment?
Can I answer? May I answer?
Yeah.
That's up to the chair.
Yeah, yes, you can.
So I don't think by legislative authority, we do have authority to do that. Period. We have the authority to do that. It's in our the documents from the legislature, which gave us, which created the CEPD. And so we do have authority. Our intent is not to be onerous and to work with the county and the DEP, but we do have that authority. We have just never executed it or used that authority before. As we've had more trouble on the island, we believe that we need to take a stronger role because it is our responsibility in terms of erosion protection on the island.
Linda, I suspect that there could be many people, who have various forms of that same question.
Mm-hmm.
And as you start being more active in
Mhm.
enforcing the rights that you think you have.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to need some kind of an educational campaign or some way to explain this to people.
Okay, we don't intend to be onerous. All we intend to
Right.
do is protect the island.
Hey, Linda, John.
Yeah.
I know that Lee County already has a huge dunes enforcement that you have to go, you have to go through Lee County if you do anything in the dunes.
Right.
I mean, what that comment was, is it's another layer. I know you have to go through the DEP, Lee County, and it just seems like a lot of organizations to
And it may
go
be
through.
that there are things that we would like, for example, or we believe we should have, is we would like some ordinances such that all paths through the dunes are zigzag paths, because it stops the erosion. That's an example of some ordinances that maybe we will get more involved with. Adding an additional layer of reviews and more government is nothing we all want, but we will work with Lee County, with DEP. If there's things that we feel that we're interested, that we need, then we will work with Lee County on them. But for example, on the Bayside, that's going to be very important as well. If we're going to have an integrated plan for the Bayside, we may have additional regulations. I don't know what they're going to be. It's not the intent to be onerous at all and to slow property owners down. It's to protect the island.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have like a so-called manual of this is what you can do in the dunes. And
yes, it would be, John.
And everybody's on board. It's from everybody.
Okay. Thank you for the suggestion.
Okay. Thanks, Linda.
The next one is, do you have any information about the lawsuit filed by the timeshare associations, which talks about the entrance from the new beach house restaurant blocking the public access road to the public beach?
I am not familiar with that. Is Ken still with us? Ken Suarez?
Yeah, so right now that there was an emergency injunction hearing that was actually to take place the Tuesday after Milton hit. It was agreed upon with the court and council that it was no longer an emergency given the destruction of Hurricane Milton. So they postponed that hearing for a later time. And so we're just waiting for the hearing to argue the points of the overburdening of the easement. If you're not aware of what's going on, South Seas is building their new beach house restaurant, is using a 60-year-old access easement that is granted to the township in section 22, township 47, or it might be the other way around. But anyways, they're using it for their landscape buffer, and council believes that the development order granted by zoning staff with Lee County did this erroneously. So we'll see what happens in the future with that. But it is a pretty egregious act, to be honest with you, about what they're doing here. That's all I have.
Okay, next statement. How many members make up the CPOA? Does that organization function other than to nominate people to the community panel? Respectfully, I think you may want to take that up with the head of the CPOA, but that's just my comment. If anybody else has
the CPOA nominates or places 5 people on the panel, and they are the founding organization that created the panel.
There is as a reminder, however, the longer explanation of this process was finally posted to the website once I returned to do that. And it's available online under, I think, history, if they want a gory explanation of how, or more detailed explanation of how the panel came to be.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right.
To a comment, yes, please stay on Zoom or Zoom in the in-person meeting. A few more CEPD comments. I'm not sure how much more you want to entertain of this discussion since this is not a CEPD meeting. So let me know if you want
Well,
those.
I want people to be heard, so just,
Okay.
you know,
Your erosion is limited, excuse me, your authority is limited to erosion control projects was one comment. A question about which CCL line you are referring to. A comment from the CEPD would be very interested in working with other Captiva organizations to help build and fund a robust AV conference center that could be used by all parties. And then the final CEPD one, you do not have the authority to create ordinances.
That last comment is probably correct, that ordinances would be passed by the county.
And in terms of the coastal construction control line, I'm assuming it's the 91 line, which is a line of authority. The 78 line, which is closer to the water, is a line of prohibition, as David well knows, having argued that in front of the county. So that's not a multiple choice question. You can't do anything in front of it.
okay, Ken is,
That's all I've got.
Yeah.
okay, I think, we've completed everything that was on the agenda. Any panel members, want to raise any other topics, or are we ready to move to, adjournment?
Mhm.
Marguerite, you're on mute, Marguerite.
How did I? Oh, now it should work. Sorry. I would like to make one little comment, and it's regarding red tide. I just wanted to say how thankful I am that it started brewing and then it kind of diminished in most areas. So yeah, just a fact that I'm personally very happy about.
Good. Anyone else? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
I'll move it.
A second.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
No.
Discussion at your own personal risk.
Yeah. All right, good meeting, Jay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. See you next month.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.